Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Sunday Musicians Café. Before we start, I would like to thank each one and every one of you for the wonderful advices I received this week and really good feedbacks from the previous episode with Dimitri. And I'm really glad that this project is carry on well, and with all your support and good positive feedbacks, you're helping very much to improve this project. And I'm really glad that I received some advices on how to improve a bit the podcast. So this little project, and as you can see, I've done something on the background. So as you can see now, I have a very low quality one, but someone told me to do it, to put this LED banner. Today we have a fantastic guest. I hope, by the way, you are having a nice Sunday and enjoying your resting day, hopefully. And today the guest is really an amazing one, and I'm really happy that we met actually in college, in Royal College, and we basically also attended a course together, which was project management with Diana Roberts, and she was really impressive already at the time when I met her, and everybody could see that she was working on a very important and successful project, which is Corelia project, and she will tell us more about it. And yeah, let's start this new chat and invite her. I think I invited her. Let's see if it works. Hey,
Hi, Pietro. Nice to see you.
how are you? All good?
All good. All good.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. How are you at the moment? Where are you set in London or?
I am in London. I'm well. I'm just getting back into the swing of things since the new school year has started, and I've been doing lots of teaching alongside my performing. So it's nice to get back into the flow a little bit as the weather starts getting a little bit colder, and we start gearing for the winter.
Absolutely. I started as well teaching, and the flow is the rhythm. We started the rhythm again, but it's enjoyable. London is very much like you feel like a hamster sometimes, like it's kind of weird, but the city is so enjoyable. I don't know where you live, but everywhere we live in London is quite enjoyable.
It's very alive as a place.
Exactly.
I find that every year I need at least a month or two out of London to recharge, and that's what I did now in the summer. But then coming back, it is, there's so much happening, like you said, and it's a very exciting atmosphere.
It is. Yeah, for people like you, I must say that you must leave London very much, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good.
I think so.
Yeah.
Lots of traveling from place to place and playing concerts always in a different venue, always in a different church that you never heard about, or a different concert series. And the same with I work in 4 different schools, all in different parts of London. So I get to see a lot of it, actually.
Of course. That's so good. Are you coffee team or tea team? What do you drink at the moment?
I am teeing.
Wow.
Teeing. I'm drinking tea. It's tasty.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm always on espresso.
The thing about me is I have a lot of energy, but I can't drink caffeine. Caffeine stresses me out. So in not emotionally, just physiologically. I
guess I'm now I can't stop drinking caffeine. I'm like addicted to caffeine.
Exactly.
So in my case, it doesn't stress me out because I'm so used to it, and my body's like
Yeah, if you don't have it, it stresses you.
It works the opposite way, exactly, exactly. Let's give our audience a bit of your background, and then we switch to the main deal that we want to talk about, which is the Corelia project. And I'm really actually really impressed. I never told you, and I think face to face we met once or twice, something like this in college. And but mainly we know each other from online course we did 2 years ago
Yeah,
already, two, right?
two. I think. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe three?
Time flies.
No,
Uh,
two. Was last year, was 21, 22, basically.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
So we did a very nice project. Everyone was carrying on their own projects.
Yeah,
I had another one, and you had this fantastic Aurelia project, which is going very well. And I couldn't attend actually the event, but we will talk about it later.
yeah,
So give us a bit of your background. Where did you study? Where did you live the most of your
yeah.
life?
Sure. So I'm an Australian clarinetist. Uh, Born in Australia, born and raised in Australia, but actually my family are from Bulgaria and Macedonia, from Eastern Europe. And I picked up the clarinet when I was 9, I think, and studied in Melbourne, did quite a lot of training in Melbourne at the conservatoire there, and then at the Australian National Academy of Music, which is a little bit like in London, maybe South Bank Symphonia. So it's a
Mm.
specialized just performance training, and it's only one orchestra worth of people. So it's a very small building, and it's intensive performing in all forms, which is wonderful. And then I went to Sydney for a year to do the Sydney Symphony Orchestra
Okay.
Fellowship
Wow.
program, which was
That's
wonderful.
really nice.
Yeah, that was. It's nice to have the Sydney Opera House as your workplace for a year. That was very special. And then I came to London in September 2019, 6 months before COVID started, to start the masters at the Royal College of Music. And then it was a funny time to start because I had a little taste of London and what London was like when it's normal, and then COVID hit. So of course everything was a bit, it was just all over the place, really, and very, very different. But I really don't regret it, to be honest, because COVID for me actually gave me quite a lot of opportunities. Firstly, to step back and have some time, some break after all that really, really intensive training and study, and to process everything that had happened over the last, 8 years of training. And also to start thinking about this project, the Corelia project, which was, it was quite a luxury because suddenly, as musicians, we have this stress about practice. I have to practice. I must be practicing. If I'm not practicing, I'm a failure. And, what's the point? But in COVID, it was like, even if I practice now, well,
What's the point?
If I don't practice today, well, there's still another 4 months before there's any kind of concert. Maybe it's okay to just have a day off and do other things musically,
Absolutely. For that COVID was really helpful for us.
It was. It really was. And it also, I think it gave all of us time to step back and think, what do I actually want and like, and which direction interests me, and what am I doing just because I feel like I'm supposed to be doing it,
Yes, absolutely. I love, sorry to interrupt, but I think you touched a very important point, which is actually often I love the approach you have with life and everything, and I can see immediately that you are a positive thinker, and which makes me, happy, because normally, like constructing, trying to find the opportunity, even in something like COVID, which was, generally speaking, it was obviously a really objectively bad thing, very dangerous moment for the humanity, the whole globe. But individually, we could have switched, and so many people switched, so many people changed their approach to life, their job, some people were stuck in a job, and they could, think about themselves, and be selfish in a good way, the good way of being selfish, like taking care of yourself and trying to understand more about your purpose and why you do things. And I love the fact that you said, for me, COVID was a really good opportunity to step back. And that's incredible. And you came out with Corelia project, with so many other opportunities in playing. So thank you so much for this testimony. This
My
is very
pleasure.
good.
My pleasure.
It's very good. And so tell us, how did you, how did you think about the Corelia project now?
Yeah. So how it started was during this time. It was the very first 6 months of COVID, when when everything in March 2020 was such a big shock, and I actually flew back to Australia because nobody knew what was going to happen, and so we flew back and everything went online. And I was preparing for the end of year recital, but it had to be a recorded recital, either a live stream or recorded. And I started to realize in that time, like, okay, I'm going to find some sort of, why don't I find a more interesting program? And I say interesting in the things that I haven't played before, there's quite a narrow standard repertoire list for clarinet. And I have played most of those things, I would say, on that list. And I thought, why don't I play something new? And I realized, I was quite embarrassed to realize, in all of my time, almost 18 years at the time playing the clarinet. I've now been playing the clarinet for 20 years, but guess my age. But,
feel you. I feel you.
Yeah, I was a bit shocked when I realized that.
Yeah.
It was this year. But I started to realize that I could count the number of pieces that I'd played by a woman, that had been composed by a woman, on about one hand, maybe. Like, back in second year I played that piece, but I started to think, like, I wonder if I can find any piece, just like one piece, maybe two, to put in. And I started researching, and my God, like, Pietro, I found so many amazing composers and pieces that I had never heard of.
Of course.
And how have I not heard of this? Like, some really, like, masterpieces, and really exciting and interesting sound worlds, and very different. And I got so excited because it's a thrill, when you discover something new, a piece that you love, and you think, oh, I want to make this my own. That's wonderful. And so I started doing this research, and then I played this piece in my recital. And the next year was this creative project management course at the college. And through that, I went in, and I didn't know that much about the subject, and I just thought, why don't I'll use it to get the experience to put on my own concert, if that's what, and why don't I'll do a concert with all repertoire by women. That could be cool. And then as that year went on, and with the guidance of Diana Roberts, the head of the Creative Careers Center, who is an amazing person in all that she does, she has this really amazing way of inspiring you to think bigger and bigger and bigger, and outside of the box.
Absolutely. I agree.
And so for me, I wanted to find a more meaningful way to channel all of this research effectively that I had done, because in one concert, one recital, you can play 4 or 5 pieces, and I found hundreds of pieces. I was thinking, what can I do with this? How can I share this with the world? And I started slowly to think of the Corelia project in a broader way, not just one concert, but let's make a list online. Let's do lots of performances. Let's do recordings. And it was around a year into this planning that I joined forces with Sophie Glennie, my colleague, who is also a clarinetist, who graduated at the college. And she came to me one day. She said, Diana said I should speak to you. And she came one day and started saying all the things to me that I had been thinking a year ago. Like, I found all this stuff, but no one plays it. How can we get people to play it? How can we get people to know about it? And I said, oh, I don't want to force you, or I sort of like put pressure on you, but do you want to join me? And she was like, I don't want to butt into your thing, but can I join you? And so we joined forces, and suddenly with 2 people, it became much easier to cross those hurdles of a creative project. Of course. Like all those things that I had come against, those big questions, and I didn't know what to do. And but then when we're having a discussion, suddenly it's easier to find different channels to go through. And
Absolutely.
so what it turned into is that in March this year, 2023, we launched a database of repertoire by women. It includes chamber music, solo repertoire, and concertos. And the reason for those specifics, we're not including orchestral pieces because there is already a database out there with specifically orchestral music.
Okay.
But what was really important to us was making a website that is easily accessible for musicians, so that people who don't have hours and hours of research time can go on the website, search for their instrument, the time period, the composer, the whatever, the duration, and find what is out there. And if you click on a piece, there's also links. If there is links, there are links to the recording and also to where you can purchase the score. Because an issue, of course, with lots of music that is not so well known, or is that it might not sometimes be published, or maybe you don't know where to buy the score, or it hasn't been recorded, and it's very difficult to I think as a musician, you often will be drawn to things that you can hear, so you want to know what it sounds like, and then you're more likely. And that takes me on to the next stage of the Karelia project, which is the performing side. We are performers ourselves, and it's important to us to lead by example. So with the help of the RCM Accelerate scheme, in July, a few months ago, we launched our very first concert in London. And it was so exciting. It was, I mean, a lot of work, like a solid almost year of preparation or more. But it was such a special evening because we had a really wonderful audience who came very open-hearted and curious and was so engaged, and we shared a really diverse program of music by American and British composers, and it just felt like such a big success in terms of people are interested, people do want to hear something new. The musicians that we worked with hadn't played the pieces before. They said, this is great, I want to play this again, I'm going to tell people about it. And so that's how things start, one step at a time. And you like pebbles in the water, and the ripples start going out. And so that's where we are. We're now planning the season ahead. We've got 2 concerts locked in, one in November, one in March, and others in the works. And now talking with other organizations who do similar things to collaborate. And it feels very exciting. Like there's a lot of potential for growth in it, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of this, because it's such a wonderful path and journey that you have been doing. And you touched, I have so many questions. I will really select them because, but you touched a couple of things that I think is very important. I like to talk about projects in general, to help musicians develop their projects. And you touch a couple of things which are very important. So like, for example, finding a partner, a good partner. It's such a good way to distribute energies and actually do things, actually in practice execute. So the execution of every project includes a lot of energy and time. And physically, you need to be really like full on, and if you have a partner and that you can share energies, that's incredible. And I think Diana did a really good job in that, because obviously she saw the potential of your project, and they said, okay, she needs a partner. So she needs someone that is enthusiastic as she is, and that is incredible, and that is a very important point. The other important thing that you said is that more than actually perform and finding things that so you started from a problem you had. So this is the best way to start a project. Any idea you have, if you want like a real change of the world, if you're thinking of changing the world in a better way in your little niche, the best way to do it is starting with your own problems. So I start, okay, I want to play something new. So I wonder if I'm not the only one that wants to play something new. And obviously you're right, because everybody, I couldn't come to the event you mentioned about the Corolla because I was involved in other things, but I really wanted to come. And but I heard about it from other people
Fantastic.
before you. So
Great.
that's you see the, yes, it's a symptom of a successful project when people talk about it. You know, it happened to me with the Netherall House Auditorium when I did the little project that I was doing, the events, and for 2 years, and you know, people came to me without ask, you know, any interaction between us, but just because they heard about the project, and you can see that the project is going well because of that. So definitely, I can say that your project is going well. And I wish you the best, actually, because at the moment you're launching it, and the actual taking off is going well. So I think a good start, it means a good journey, a good life. Another question, there is a question I wanted to ask you. Apart from, because maybe people are interested, and if you want to share it, obviously, if you don't want to share it, feel free to say no and to say this is quite confidential and stuff. But it's important to be transparent, I think. And how did you manage and how did you cope with the fact of you needed a financial support? Apart from RCM Accelerator, which is incredible funding, I guess it's difficult to cope with that. I mean, at least I was struggling personally.
Yeah, I mean that's the most difficult thing actually when you're getting your own project off the ground. It's really funny. I recently was speaking to a very experienced person in the fields, you know, who's been in the fields for 30 years or something, and they gave me a bit of advice, which was, if you can, be involved in other people's passion projects, because then you'll be paid. But when it's your own passion project, it's a bit harder. And of course,
good,
you know, when there's a budget, everyone else gets paid first before the people who organize. But no, it's the most difficult thing. And we were really lucky with the Accelerate grant, because it gave us a great chunk of money to launch this very first event, and do it in such a way that we hoped it will then act as a springboard for other events.
Yeah.
So we, for example, we paid for a professional videographer and photographer, which, you know, it can be quite expensive, but then we have documentation of that event, and so we will be using that for future funding applications, also online, and to get, like you said, hopefully for more and more people to hear about it. You need the visual these days, especially with Instagram, Facebook, website, everything. So and that's the tricky thing now with the next step is actually, I mean, even yesterday we were, you know, Saturday morning, what better thing to do than we were on the drive together writing a funding application, which was due today for another concert that we want to put on this year. And the thing is, the great thing in London or in the UK is that actually there is quite a lot of funding. There are lots of different funding sources. You just have to do a bit of digging. But there are lots of different things to apply for. And if you don't get one thing, that's okay. That doesn't mean your project is over. There are many, many more things to go for. Already in the grants we've done, some we were successful, some we were not, some we got a bit of money, some we didn't. But what was really great about the first concert, we put so much time and effort into promotion, and lots of that was personal promotion, you know, sending out emails directly to people, because when something new, that's the best way, I think, directly and word of mouth. But there was such a positive response, and actually we made a little bit more money from ticket sales than we thought. And so we had a little bit of funding from that, which means that the next concert, we didn't get the grant that we wanted for it, but now we have a little bit of surplus that we can use for the artist fees for that concert, and so on.
Question. So basically your business, like kind of a core business, is not only events, I guess, but the main business is actually facilitating the research of the repertoire, right? No?
I think that's That's a really good question. The main business, well, the main activity at the moment is organizing performances.
Okay.
Because we launched the database, and although that will be ongoing in terms of, well, we're adding things all the time. Actually, our main work as musicians is performers. And so it's important to us to be putting that work into practice.
So
and
you don't want actually the database to be profitable in a way. Like you don't advertise on the database. You don't use any advertising.
At this stage, not yet, but we would love to.
I think yeah, I think, no, honestly, that's my opinion. No, I mean, to be fair, it's actually a really good like a passive income. It's good. And also the database, you want to improve the database. Yeah. And with the money that you receive from advertising, you can actually improve it in a better way. But what I would suggest, for example, is to actually contact performers that they are keen on this field. Okay, so this and try to ask them to use their own material to put them in the database.
So that do you mean to add their own pieces to the database that they know? Is that what you mean?
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Or performances of pieces that you didn't have. So you have actually videos and shooting, and you can put them in the database. So that would be really good. So sorry to say this, but I'm really glad for this this project, and I would like to help actually, and that's really good. So one thing, another question. So you think that which are the reasons, apart from misogyny, let's say, okay, or apart from cultural reasons, let's say, okay, to be transparent and clear, which are the reasons why women composers have been not published or like performed that amount?
It's a really good question, and I think it's a very complex question. It's culturally and socially, I mean, that can't be discounted. We are so used to, also the fact that we are so used to the names that we hear and that we see, we tend to go towards that. As humans, we also like familiarity and things that we know. And if, say, a teacher plays a piece, and then they will suggest that piece to their student. And so these, like I said, the list of standard clarinet repertoire is actually very small. It probably hasn't changed much in the last 50 years because people continue to recommend those same pieces, and competitions continue to set the same pieces. So then, of course, all the students have to learn those pieces, and then when those students become teachers, that's what they suggest. I really think that times are changing and that there is more curiosity. When I was a student, I had the mistaken idea, like I think lots of us do, that the things that we haven't heard of, we probably haven't heard of them because they're not very good. That this idea of, oh, well, Mozart is great, Beethoven is great, but who was, I don't know, someone... I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but you know what I mean. So again, that's the thing about familiarity. Whereas what I realized as I started researching is just because you haven't heard of something doesn't mean it's not great. It just means you haven't heard of it. We're in our little bubble. And it's very interesting because between Australia and Europe, or Australia and somewhere in, not actually, you know what I mean, not the UK, Europe and the UK, the standard repertoire lists are a little bit different. There was a piece by a French composer, which I had never heard of in Australia. But then I went to some master classes in summer in Europe, and everyone was playing this piece. And in the festival, whereas there are certain pieces that every single clarinetist in Australia will learn, but in the UK, they've not heard of it. So again, I think it's localized what we think is good because we just know it. That being said, the thing about the Karelia project, obviously we're solely performing pieces by women. The idea is not that we are denouncing, that we think that the stuff that exists or that we play usually on standard repertoire, we're not saying, oh, that's crap music. Of course not. We're actually enriching our repertoire. Like how it's brilliant to broaden and to discover new things. It only makes you a better player, and if you're being curious, to discover something new rather than always going towards the things that you know. And I think the same for audiences. You know, with the way that we listen to a Beethoven symphony, which you know, the way you listen is very different to when you're listening to a new piece that you haven't. I say new as in new to you. It might be a very old piece. But because of all of these reasons, and because of the historic suppressing of women who compose, for like Mahler and his wife are a classic example. If she was going to marry him, she had to stop composing. But that doesn't mean that Alma Mahler wasn't a fantastic composer. It just meant that she wasn't allowed to compose at the time, and probably didn't get published for a while, or many women like her wouldn't have. And so because they're not published, we have, again, that idea, oh, it must not be good. Well, no, they just weren't published. And that's why
we are so biased.
Of course.
We are biased in the opposite. I was also thinking the opposite way. So everything that Mozart or Beethoven, I'm gonna say something that is a bomb, but that everything that Mozart or Beethoven they brought is good. It's not true. In my opinion, it's the same. It's the same. I mean, there are things of Mozart which I personally don't. Obviously, it's also subjectively, but objectively as well. You can see the difference. Obviously, there are some works which are less beautiful than others, but we take for granted that, and that's true. That's you're fighting against bias. That's good. That's good. Absolutely.
I just had a thought. Actually, it's a little bit like I mean, I thought of it because last night we were going to find a restaurant, and there was one restaurant really busy, and the next one is less busy. And how that classic thing, we think, oh, if this one is busy, it must be good. But if this one is not, it must not be good. We sat down at that restaurant. It was delicious. It just happened that, it was slightly less busy at 6 p.m. or whatever. And if we don't try it, we don't know. And we can't assume that something is bad. And, it's not saying that every single piece written by a woman ever is you're going to love. Of course not. It's art. It's music. Some things are wonderful. Some things you don't love. Something that you don't love, the person sitting next to you in the concert hall could be having, an epiphany about life, and you're like, what's next?
No, that's true. That's why I think it's good that you keep doing performances and events, and I think that should be your kind of goal at the moment. You should contact the most of performers you can to perform, and because so that we try, and the audiences try, because also it's not just the taste of the performance, which has a very big, obviously, if you start pushing from the institutions, the audience changes the taste in a way, because if it's played more, the audience could change taste during the time. Obviously, if you if you offer more concept of classical women composers, and at the Royal Albert Hall, I mean, people that go to the Royal Albert Hall, maybe not the whole percentage, but a small percentage will say, okay, that's actually nice, and they will listen to it again and again and again to modify their taste, because taste is volatile, and it can change. So that's really good that you're doing performances. When is the next one?
The next one, Hamish Brown, a wonderful pianist, and I are playing a recital at the Westminster Music Library on Wednesday, the 8th of November. And so that's this, this season now in the autumn. And then in the spring, we have a Women's Day concert on Friday, the 8th of March as well, which will be really great. We're joined by the Alcione Quartet to play clarinet quintets. I'm really excited about that one as well.
You playing that?
Yeah,
oh,
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I just had two thoughts, actually. Firstly, the thing about performing as well, I think the audience, it really depends on what the performer is thinking and feeling about a piece and about their, you know, how they are on stage. You know, when a performer walks out on stage and is nervous, the audience gets nervous, or they're relaxed and confident, same thing. If a performer really loves what they're doing and is really convinced about what they're playing, and they give an exceptional performance, the audience will love it. They might not. They might think, "Oh, I'm not sure. You know, this piece is pretty good," but you know, I could tell that they loved it, and so you're more positive.
Absolutely.
And that's why for us, it's really, really important to perform it when we're feeling passionate. The pieces that we feel passionate about, and to hopefully give very, very good performances, because then someone who's watching, all it has to be is one musician in the room to think, "Oh, that's a cool piece. I might play that," and then they take back to their college or whatever, and then they find a, say, string quartet, and then each of that members of the string quartet will think, "That's a great piece," and then pass it on. It's really, really important, because so many often quite a lot of the recordings that are online for some pieces, they're not recorded professionally, and some of them aren't very good, and it's very hard to want to play a piece if you're listening to a crappy recording, you know, shot on a shaky phone in the back of a boomy church. You can't hear what's going on, that sort of thing.
Of course.
So it is really also about increasing
the delivery.
Delivery. And the second thing I was thinking of is the important role of institutions in this, like you mentioned it, not just concert institutions in terms of the audiences, but say college. When I was there a few years ago, we were very lucky, because in the woodwind department especially, there was such support from our head of woodwind, Simon Channing, we had a woodwind diversity club, I think it was called, the Woodwind Diversity Group. And that was again during COVID, so people had time, and every 2 weeks this group met, and every member of the group introduced 2 new pieces. One, what was it?
Wow.
2 new pieces by minority composers, so either ethnically diverse or global majority composers, they call it now, so non-white composers.
Okay.
And one piece by a woman as well, and that was really wonderful, because there was such a again that attitude of discovery, like, who's going to bring what? Wow, I've never heard of this before, this is cool. And it's also really nice to humanize the people, because it's not just some random name composer. Everyone who came was like, okay, this person was from this place, they lived here, this is what happened in their life, and here is their music. And suddenly there's this really human connection, which again draws you to a piece and a composer and their music, and makes you want to learn more, or makes you want to share that with other people, especially when there are interesting stories.
That's really cool. I didn't know about the Woodwind Club. It's really cool. They should do it in strings as well. It's not
Absolutely.
Too bad. It's good. Yeah. But I mean, I have so many questions, Magda. I will keep you for forever, honestly.
Good.
But we don't have that much time. But one thing I was curious about is, what do you think is the best way to approach now at the stage of your project the nature of the events? I mean, what I mean is, are you focused more on quantity or quality?
Quantity of what?
Of events and performances.
Oh, that's a really good question. What we've been looking at is how we can work within our budget, which is, as I said, dependent on grants. So, for example, the next event is a recital, just a duo recital, and then the one after is a quintet.
But do you want, because you want each event to be filmed, to have the top?
Oh, I see what you mean.
No.
In terms of quality of the performance is always very important. Quality in terms of having the top level videographer, photographer, and I don't know what, that is not so much a concern for us, because it's more important to I think to actually get some consistency. So we'd prefer to have, say, 5 smaller events in the year than one really big showcase concert. Yeah. I
absolutely support the idea. Yes, I support the idea. It's really good, yeah.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing, actually, when we were, filming that first concert, we realized that it's so wonderful to have the film, but I mean, it's a live concert. Mistakes happen, things go wrong. And so we had initially used this whole piece to publish it somewhere. Actually, we can we feel that maybe some sections, it's better to use it in excerpts and in snippets, and realize, okay, maybe we don't need to have everything filmed all the time, that if we were specifically going to record, then let's do a really proper recording project of a, say, a certain composer or set of works. But certainly visibility, so having some documentation of every event is very important to be able to show that consistency continuation of the events.
That's good. That's very good. I'm really curious, and I really suggest anyone that is interested in this project to follow you, to follow the Corelia accounts on Instagram and all the pages you have. And could you please tell us, just to close this nice chat with you, that has been lovely. Thank you so much again for being here. Can you close to telling us, maybe suggesting, I mean, like remaining in the field of Corelia, obviously, and this topic. What do you think the musicians should, you know, like a tip for the young generation, specifically maybe on this topic? So if you can,
so,
give us this kind of
all right,
like
a tip for the younger generation. I think my biggest tip is explore and be curious, and don't feel restricted by that idea we were talking about before of what you should be doing. Of course, your teacher might say, oh, play this now, but especially as you get older and go through the colleges, it gets to a point where you start taking things to your teacher. Be curious, go to concerts, look online, look on coreliaproject.com.org, sorry. You're sure to find that there's just so much music out there. And so let yourself discover something new and find a piece that can become your own. I think that's the most exciting thing about finding a piece that you haven't heard or that you haven't heard other people play. Because if you love it, that can become almost like your piece, and you get to share it. You get to share your interpretation. You get to pass that on to others. And also in that process, you really get to discover something new, learn something new, learn about a composer at a moment in time that you might not have known about. And there's just, I honestly think there's nothing more exciting than finding, as a musician, something that you really want to make your own to share with other people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Magda. That was fantastic. So everybody go to korea.co and
.org.
.org.
Yeah.
ORG, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you type Corelia on Google, you will find Corelia Project. So please type it down and have a look at that. And please try to think out of the box and play music that is new to you and new to us, so we can learn about it. Thank you so much, Magda, for being here with me. And lovely chat. Hope to meet you in London soon for a pint or for a coffee in real life.
Please. Thanks so much, Pietro. Ciao.
Ciao. What a lovely chat. Thank you so much, Magda. Really appreciated your enthusiasm, your passion about this project, which is going very well. So please follow her and follow the Corelia project, which is really needs support, and we really need to support them and follow whatever they do, and try to, if you're a performer, offer your abilities, your skills to perform for them, and they really need performers. So yeah, that was it. That was another episode of Sunday Musicians Café. I hope you liked it, and I hope I can see you next time, next Sunday on this screen. And hope you're having a wonderful Sunday, and see you next week.